In a kingdom carved between mountains and valleys, where eagles soared and rivers sang to the earth, there lived a king named Ariv. He was known far and wide for his strength in battle, his wisdom in counsel, and his unmatched prosperity. Yet, despite all his triumphs, King Ariv often found himself restless, his soul aching with a quiet emptiness he couldn't name. Beside him stood his most trusted advisor, Minister Vir, a man of humble roots with eyes that had seen both the cruelty and the beauty of life. Unlike the king, Vir found joy in the smallest things: a child's laughter, the aroma of fresh bread, a tree blossoming after a harsh winter. His heart beat not for power, but for people. One autumn morning, as the golden sun melted over the palace walls, a messenger arrived, breathless and dirt-covered. A great drought had struck the kingdom's outer villages. Crops were dying. Children were falling ill. The people were starving. King Ariv's court erupted in debate. "We must ration the food," said one noble. "We cannot risk emptying the royal stores," said another. The king turned to Vir, whose silence was heavy with thought. "What say you, my friend?" Ariv asked. Vir stood slowly. "A ruler's greatness," he said, "is not in his wealth or armies, but in the echoes of his compassion." The court grew quiet. "What are you suggesting?" the king asked. "I suggest we go, not send. Go, you and I. Let the people see their king not as a figure on a throne, but as a hand that feeds, a heart that listens." The king hesitated. No monarch had ever traveled so far for peasants. But something in Vir's words struck him, a memory of his childhood, of his mother feeding beggars before herself, whispering, "Only what you give is truly yours." And so, the next day, the king and his minister disguised themselves and journeyed out with carts of grain and medicine. Through dusty roads and burned fields, they met mothers who had sold their last blankets for rice, children who hadn't smiled in weeks, elders whose eyes held the quiet resignation of hunger. At one village, a little girl offered the king half a biscuit she had saved. "You look tired," she said. The king, overwhelmed, knelt before her and wept not as a ruler, but as a man. Word of the king's journey spread like wildfire. More nobles followed, bringing aid, healing, and hope. The once dying villages bloomed again, not just from food, but from dignity restored. Months later, back in his palace, Ariv stood before his people. "I left as a king," he said, "but I returned as a servant. And that is how I will lead." His kingdom flourished in a way it never had, richer not in gold, but in humanity.